Sorry. I'm taking off the earmuffs and the goggles. That's very dusty. my phone ran out of memory there, so I just had to delete a couple of things, and I'm starting, not again, because I just watched that little bit back, and I thought, oh well, I'll leave it as it is. I'll just make it as 2 separate videos. Well, yeah, we may not all agree on all these different, on different approaches, on a different way, and but I have to say, when I saw Jason confronted by Dell in Glasgow yesterday, I realized that, I may not agree altogether with Jason's approach to the public, but I disagree with Dell very much in that he was saying, "Oh, you haven't moved this thing on, you haven't progressed." But I realized overnight that, gosh, when it comes to talking to someone who's never heard about the flat Earth theory or these deceptions, then you are starting at kindergarten level. You're starting at kleiner, school level 1 of 10 levels, say, and to say to people, oh well, I want to introduce you to level 5 and level 6, is the equivalent to saying to a child as they enter school, this is what Pythagoras is, and this is what some deeper kind of scientific theories are. Well, you wouldn't do that, would you? But equally, if you had to ask me, would I recommend that someone go out into the street and find a way of communicating to the public that that there is something that they need to pay attention to? Then of course that's what I've been doing since I was inspired by Harry, and in part by Dell, actually, to go out and to make a difference, to try and alert people. As I say now, I'm not trying to convert, I'm trying to alert. And it was an uncomfortable kind of irony that actually I found myself, I find myself in a bit of a no man's land where I'm neither supporting this effort to get out there, nor am I, but I'm also sort of kowtowing to those who are shouting and saying, oh, we shouldn't be doing this kind of thing, or those that are making hit piece videos on people with absolutely baseless videos, and I, as I mentioned earlier in the previous clip segment of this, that there was a video made about me, and because I'm 32 years ago I was doing national service, which, if you don't understand that, Mr. Chiswick, is actually something that is a law. It's like you don't have a choice. I could have taken the conscientious objectors side, but I thought that was for pussies back then. For me, it was like, you have to go and do your bit for your country. I was totally hook, line, and not totally, but fairly hook, line, and sinker with the Cold War, and that there was a capitalism versus communism thing going on, and that there was a horde of communists with black skins who were only chomping at the bit to come and rampage over the country that I lived in. It sounds a little familiar. It's the same old thing with the Muslim thing today, and the in Europe, and the Mexican thing, I suppose, if you're an American. That there are just people egging, that are your enemy. And I did my national service. And for that, it's a long time ago, but for that, I got people casting aspersions. In fact, when Anthony Riley had his phenomenal encounter last week in the streets with those two students, or those two graduates, well-educated, degree-holding graduates. Mr. Chezik made his first appearance and you know, a bit like Dell, I suppose, he's probably done an awful lot to inform people as to the type of vibration that we're talking about. But he said, if I went back and listened to it, he said in the very short time that Jason had the camera in his face, he said, ex-Army Dave, I still don't trust you, or something along those lines. And that's, you know, his referencing me still. And I have to say, it's a disappointment, or rather, it was a disappointment, but it's a recognition that actually it's a kind of karmic thing. You know, I mean, I've been casting aspersions about other people, you know, Mark Sargent was one of them, and I saw his interview with his conversation with Robin Campbell, lifting the lid. I saw his conversation with Robin Campbell in a park on Sunday morning, and you know, it made me realize that this is just another guy who's doing the best that he can. You know, if the guy ends up making a little bit of money out of it, or he, you know, then good luck to the guy. You know, if he is designed as a guy, or his intention is to be that kind of entry level way shower at you know, at the beginning of the long journey to this truth, then, you know, so be it. Who am I to criticize that effort? He, I'm sure, has put his life and everything, you know, he's on the line to kind of do what he's doing. And I'm sorry for having been one of those people who challenged that. I mean, the truth is, I also challenged, back a few years ago, I challenged Eric Dubay. You know, I wasn't sure who and what he was, and so on. And what I'm doing in challenging this is I'm adding to the dark. I'm adding to the negative energy, the very same negative energy that I left the shed from, because I can't align with that. And I realize that the only way we're going to get through this is not as individuals all running our own path. Yes, it's great to go out there and do your own little bit of activism, speak to your neighbors. No one else can speak to your neighbors, your family, and so on, like you can. So I encourage that. But I went to the last convention in the UK, and I actually found it a very empowering experience. I made friends. Martin Lika and I, you know, we have a closeness, or a friendship, or a, you know, because we got to hang out for a little while and share a few ideas. And I think I would never have had that opportunity were I not to have gone to the conference. The very first subscriber on my channel, this Trinity 4 channel, was Lee, Flat Earth British sub. You know, and again, I had the fantastic opportunity of running into Lee, you know, by complete and sheer coincidence. He happened to be working in the hospital. He happened to be visiting to do what he does. If you know his channel, you'll know what he does. He happened to be on a site visit to the very hospital that my father-in-law was dying in. That day my father-in-law died, I came out of the toilet and saw this face walk past down the corridor. I'm like, I know that guy. And he encouraged me to set up this channel, and was my first subscriber. So actually, we are far more powerful when we get together. We, you know, this business of calling each other out and so on. Didn't you see what happened with Dell in Glasgow yesterday? It's like, and the same with Chezik, you know. You see these people in the flesh and you meet them and you realize they're not these frightening, people that they like to portray themselves, and all that kind of, hero talk when you're behind the keyboard, a lot of that goes away. But more importantly is, the friendships and the connections and the love that we can share with each other, even if we don't agree on certain things. This can help you on your journey. And in 5 years and 10 years time, we will look back at this time, and perhaps the relationships that we've forged, the information that we've shared, will stand us in really good stead for this, I think, long journey ahead. So I really wanted to take this opportunity to apologize, firstly, to anyone who I've naysayed over this time. And actually, I'm not even looking to entrench enmity, camps, this idea of there's camps and so on. I see that there are camps, I'll call it for what it is. There are camps, there are people sitting in one room talking about people in another room, and people not willing to support, people's good efforts. Just to, I'm not looking to grumble, but I called a barbecue in Speaker's Corner for a few weeks ago, and just my friend Josh and his wife Charlotte turned up, but no one else. And how much did others in the community go, hey, I may not be able to go, but let me share this video, let me share this information, let me make sure that others hear about that. So because that we can get people together, because the more that we can come together, the less we're playing into the system's idea of divide and conquer. Because actually, I think that Dell and Chiswick, they actually want the same thing that we do. They're just coming at it from a different angle. So I'm not looking to upset and anger and to outrage people. I want to say sorry for my part in creating division. And I want to encourage you to think about what your part is in all of that, because I think ultimately the system doesn't necessarily need to control things so much as the fact is that we are different. That I was thinking this morning, maybe like there's 12 constellations, maybe there's 12 key human archetypes here, and some are going to come across sort of more sort of ethereal, yogic kind of stuff, and others are going to come across more sort of heavy, jackbooted kind of, fuck this, we gotta overthrow the system and so on. But that doesn't mean, that they're working for the system. So what we're doing is we're actually tearing ourselves apart. As a collective, as one humankind, and we're making enemies out of what should be our brother and what should be our sister. Eric Dubay is my brother. Dell is my brother. We may see things in a different way. We may have different insecurities. And this leads us to feeling a certain particular way about people who have a different approach. I think we can all agree that the only way at the moment, the only way that this is going to get out is by people doing what they can to continue to improve the science, FE Core, whatever you think of FE Core, to improve the science, the Globebusters guys, you know, we make mistakes, yes, but you know, and that's science. Science does make mistakes. You know, but there's different approaches. Some of it's about you know, putting chalk down on a wall, and others is you know, it's about, you know, holding a convention, or going around in a camper van and trying to spread the word as widely as possible. And I think a holistic approach or a holistic view of this would be that actually all of these different archetypes are valid, and all of these different archetypes need to come together. You know, I mean, if you think about a rugby team or a football team, you know, you have the goalkeeper and you have the striker up front, and you have the defenders, and you have the speedy wingers. You know, and I know I have a role to play. I've realized that certainly over the last year or so, that I have a role to play. Mine may not be the super analytical world, as you can see from my shed here. I saw a short video of Norbs unpacking all his gear the other day, and it's like, wow, that guy's so well organized. You know what I mean? You look around this, I'm not the same kind of character as that. I don't have his skill set. You know, I could never have his skill set. You know, perhaps I don't have the analytical mind that would want to sit through hours and hours of doing a, you know, particular thing. But I've got a different place where, you know, I've got a, you know, I have this, I think, a speaking role, you know, and perhaps a unifying role. I had a conversation with Robin this morning. I asked him if he would be willing to, you know, have me at the convention, as it were. Not in a speaking role. I stepped away from that, and I don't expect to get that back. But whether he would accept me to come back on to the event, and he was very gracious. And of course, he wants for there to be a community, a common unity around what it is we're trying to achieve. But if you've got the heavy-footed defenders who are the biggest members of the team, they're kicking they're kicking their goalkeeper, or they're kicking the wingers in the shins because they don't like how fast they run. You know, we're never going to win through. So I'm not wanting to belabor this, but I do offer this truth sharing, if you like, and an apology, sincere apology, as a way of offering an olive branch into the community, because there's more division in this community than is necessary. That's for sure. And it seems to me that most everybody is doing the best that they can do, they think they should be doing, and you know, I applaud you for that. But if you're looking in from the outside, you go, gee, these guys they're not seeing the spirituality behind this. We're still sort of coming at this from a fairly troglodytic perspective and worldview and so on. And I think the maturation of our collective insight demands that we seek to build bridges with each other, or continue to play the divide and conquer game for the system. So I'm going to be at the conference on Friday and Saturday this coming weekend. Is that the 13th and the 14th? 13th and the 14th at Kidderminster. If you're in the UK, I would love for you to try and make the effort to be there yourself. You know, I think that Robin and Roxanne and Jason have put a lot of effort in. It's not just them, Amanda, and there's others behind the scenes have put a lot of effort into creating what is potentially one of the most exciting things to happen for our ragtag community in the last year or so, and I think that taking yourself out of the comfort, getting out from behind the keyboard, having the courage to come and face the people, you will actually realize that you have a lot more in common with your fellow flat earther, if I can use that term, or ball popper, globe denier, then you realize, and that actually this could be a springboard for you to make fantastic connections that last a lifetime, and that we will grow. We will grow as a community if we can show some solidarity and some unity. And it is the realization that we've got, I think, well-meaning people. I do think that Dell, despite his heavy-handedness, I think he's a well-meaning guy. I genuinely think that he wants. I wondered for a time whether he wasn't just trying to hold people in his sort of angry shed, but that's his style. That's the guy that he is. I mean, I've worked alongside people like that. I've had brawls with people like that in my lifetime. But I think that he's just doing the best that he can with the tools that he has. But I'm grateful for him showing up, actually, because it evidenced to me how divided we are and how wrong that is. So come on down to Kidderminster this weekend and bring some love and some high vibration, because really that's really where we have to be headed, is into the territory of the high vibration. Because actually, this system wants us to be kind of rumbling with each other. It wants us to be at the low vibe side of things, and it wants us to I think that, or maybe that's the test. Maybe that's the test. Maybe that's what we're meant to be overcoming. Is that we've all been drawn into a very low vibration, low chakra, Sodom and Gomorrah type kind of world, and where we do that work on ourselves and we raise our own vibration, then that's the part what we have to do on our own. No one can go inside of your heart and in your mind and righten what's been wronged. No one can do that but you. So I encourage you to do that. But there's also high value in being a part of a community. And this is not a movement to overthrow the government, because actually, when you spend time out in the streets, you realize that most people are in that Stockholm syndrome state. They are, even though they may not like all of the government and the fact that they've been, whatever. Most people are like, okay, it is what it is, and that's what we got. And that's never really going to change until, a much larger swathe of people have sought that individual higher self, away from the television, away from the pornography, away from the gambling and the drugs and all those sorts of things that I've had a relationship with myself. So it is about seeking that higher vibe, and come along. That's partly why I made this video, because I owe it to the organizers, I owe it to myself, and I owe it to you to encourage you to be a part of something, and rather than sitting behind your keyboard, hoping that the Messiah is going to come and save your ass. Truth is, only you can save your ass. And once you've done that, or as you're doing that, how about you save someone else, help someone to find their own way to saving their own self. So that's that. I look forward to seeing you on Friday or Saturday. It's going on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but I unfortunately can't be there on Sunday. So I hope to see you soon. Cheers.